The Fall of Garrik Bladestein, a soul bound in crimson. Garrik Bladestein was a name that struck both awe and fear across the realms. A warrior, a rogue, an adventurer who dared to tread where even kings and mages feared to look. Unlike those content with earthly conquests, Garrik sought the greatest challenges imaginable, and to him that meant delving into the depths of the nine hells itself. To some, he was a hero, a mortal who defied the will of fiends, stealing from their vaults, breaking their contracts, and freeing souls bound for eternal torment. To others, he was a reckless fool, playing games with forces he could never hope to truly understand. But among the many powerful beings Garrik angered, none were more dangerous than Graz'zt, the Dark Prince of the Abyss. Garrik had interfered with Graz'zt's schemes too many times. He had stolen treasures from his keeps, sabotaged his alliances, and worst of all, humiliated him before his own demonic court. Graz'zt was not one to forget an insult. It began as a whispered challenge. A rumor spread across the material plane. A relic of unimaginable power lay hidden within the lowest depths of the nine hells, a treasure even archmages feared to pursue. It was bait, and Garrik, ever the daring opportunist, took it without hesitation. With his most trusted allies, he ventured into the infernal wastes, a land of ash-choked skies, rivers of molten iron, and endless torment. The very air burned to breathe, thick with sulfur and the echoes of eternal suffering. They pressed on, undeterred by the horrors before them. Through the weeping canyons, where damned souls clawed at their ankles, whispering promises of power if freed. Through the blackened citadel, where they faced infernal knights clad in cursed obsidian armor, their blades dripping with soul-severing venom. Through the maw of chains, where an ancient pit fiend, bound for eons, offered them safe passage in exchange for a single name to add to its contracts, an offer Garrik refused without hesitation. At every turn, they fought, bargained, or bled their way forward. For weeks, they carved through the ranks of the nine hells' defenders, their strength pushed to its absolute limits. It was not just battle. It was attrition, an unending war against a realm designed to break even the greatest of warriors. Their blades had been bathed in the blood of pit fiends, their minds assaulted by whispers of temptation. Yet still they pushed onward, driven by the promise of ultimate power. Finally, they reached the infernal vault, a structure older than time itself, hidden in the deepest reaches of the nine hells. Its doors, carved from the bones of forgotten gods, stood ajar, as if they had been expected. Garrik hesitated. His instincts screamed of danger, but the allure of the unknown pulled him forward. Inside, only darkness awaited them. The chamber was silent, impossibly vast, stretching beyond mortal comprehension. The floor was polished obsidian, reflecting their flickering torches like the surface of a black ocean. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, oppressive, watching. Then, a voice. Software. Amused.
You should have stayed on your little plane, mortal.
The words slithered through the shadows, curling around Garrick's spine like a serpent's breath. A figure emerged, stepping from the abyss itself, his six-fingered hands resting lazily on the pommel of an elegant, curved blade. Graz'zt, the Dark Prince of the Abyss. His form was tall, inhumanly graceful, wrapped in midnight silks that seemed to drink in the surrounding light. His skin was a shade darker than shadow, his pupilless eyes burning with an eerie, knowing amusement. A slow, deliberate smile played across his lips.
But I must admit,
Graz'zt murmured, tilting his head as if regarding an amusing pet.
your persistence has been entertaining.
The realization struck too late. The relic, the power they sought, had never existed. It had all been a carefully woven deception, a game played by a being whose schemes spanned eons. A trap. And they had walked right into it. The first abyssal knight emerged from the darkness, then another, and another. A dozen, their obsidian armor inscribed with ever-shifting runes, their blades humming with fiendish energy. The air crackled with power, the scent of sulfur and decay growing stronger. Garrik did not hesitate.
"Kill the bastard,"
he snarled. And then the room erupted into battle. The first knight lunged, and Garrik met him head-on, his blade clashing with the unholy steel of the fiend's weapon. Sparks showered the ground as the force of the impact sent tremors through the vault. His allies followed suit, cutting down the demonic warriors with a fury born of desperation. They fought as legends do, shattering bone, severing limbs, dodging spells woven from the fabric of darkness itself. Garrik reached Graz'zt before long, their blades meeting in a blinding clash of divine and abyssal power. With each strike, the chamber shook, the very walls of the infernal vault groaning under the strain of the battle. The Dark Prince smiled through it all, parrying and countering with an almost bored elegance, as if testing the limits of a new toy. Then, one by one, Garrik's allies began to fall. Each time a warrior fell, Graz'zt's knights did not simply kill them. They ripped their very souls from their bodies, devouring them in pillars of hellfire. The screams of his companions echoed, their essence reduced to nothing, leaving only ash in their place. Garrik fought on alone, his strength waning, his movement slowing, but his resolve unbreakable. He would not kneel. He would never kneel. Graz'zt sighed.
Enough of this,
He said lazily.
You are amusing, Garrik, but I have grown bored.
With a wave of his six-fingered hand, the air shimmered, and a dark crimson gemstone materialized in the space between them. Its surface pulsed, alive, aware, hungry. Garrik had no time to react. Chains of abyssal magic erupted from the void, lashing out with unnatural speed, coiling around his arms, legs, throat, and chest. They burned like the fires of creation, sapping his strength, pulling him toward the glowing stone. Graz'zt stepped forward, placing a single elegant hand on Garrik's forehead.
You wanted a treasure, Garrik?
He whispered, his voice like silk and venom.
Well then, let me grant your wish.
The gemstone's surface rippled, and the chains dragged him inward. Garrik screamed, the sound fading into oblivion as his physical form unraveled, devoured by the magic, his very essence torn from the fabric of reality. And then he was gone. All that remained was the gem, resting in Graz'zt's hand. The great adventurer was no more. The gem, now holding the bound soul of Garrik Bladestein, pulsed faintly in Graz'zt's palm. The Dark Prince admired his handiwork, a cruel grin playing across his lips. Unlike the other souls, he claimed, Garrik would not be tortured, nor destroyed. That would be too simple. Instead, he was trapped in a prison without walls, cursed to exist as a specter, able to see and hear the world, but never truly act within it. To further mock his former defiance, Graz'zt further cursed the gem, so that Garrik would be bound to serve whoever possessed it, stripped of agency, reduced to a relic passed from hand to hand like a mere trinket. Graz'zt, with one last wave of his hand, sent the gem to Faerun, and with that, the gem vanished into the mortal world, lost for generations, passed between collectors, warlocks, and power-hungry nobles, none able to fully understand or wield its power. Some sought to control Garrik's spirit, others tried to unravel its mysteries, but all eventually lost it, for the gem had a will of its own. And so it remained, drifting through history, until one day it found its way into the hands of Garrik Bladestein, Garrik's now great-grandchild. Neither Beris nor Garrik remembers how or when the gem came into his possession. It was simply there, as if destiny itself had willed it. From that time forward, Garrik has been an unseen presence in Beris's life, guiding him, advising him, and sometimes even emerging from the gem on his own accord. Beris does not know who was responsible for Garrik's imprisonment. Garrik has deliberately withheld the name of Graz'zt, fearing that his reckless, powerful descendant would attempt to seek vengeance, a path that could lead him to an equally cruel fate. But secrets cannot stay hidden forever. One day, Beris may learn the truth, and when he does, the question will not be if he seeks revenge, but whether he will survive the war it brings upon him. Garrik Bladestein was once a legend among mortals, but now he is nothing more than a whisper inside a cursed gemstone held by his great-grandson, watching history unfold while trapped in a prison without end. Yet, even in undeath, his spirit fights.
And in Beris, perhaps, his story is not yet finished.